Righto, since our last video, which is a while ago, we've sort of cleaned this thing up a bit, and we've got the front looking a lot nicer and some knobs cleaned, and it's better. It's not just a very quick clean. But what was more of interest was what was going on in the 9 volt area and also the 5 volt area. Now, easier just to show you on a circuit over here what happens, and something to be a bit aware of, whether you're running one of these on 110 volts or on 12 volts, they actually rely on some of the supply being converted over here on the power supply board to 9 volts and to 5 volts. If you haven't got that 9 and 5 volts, you're in a lot of trouble. Now, as you can see here, we actually placed this Zener over here, which was giving us some trouble. We had a charged resistor over here. Last minute I decided and I'll go in and I'll sort that out, but I've just sort of chucked in a replacement Zener here. I've got to pull the whole board out again to do it, whether I'll bother or not. But anyway, as you see, I've tacked in a 5.1 volt Zener in there. That's a 6.2 volt. Sorry, wrong. Let's go through this again. 9.1 volt Zener over here. That was short circuit, so that was causing the supply to burn up the resistor here, etc. This was 6.2, sorry. So they supply around just under 6 volts to the board, not 5. And you'll see that over here. We see initially. If I can just get this to focus. Oh, goodness. Okay. Let me just get a bit more light over here. That might be a bit better. Maybe it's my glasses. Yeah, that's not... Oh, that's better. Okay. So, see what happens here. This Zener here pulls this here. This 9.92 switches on. What was happening was this was going to ground, as we can see. This resistor here obviously got very, very hot and flunked out on us. And the regulator itself, the 2SC1061, was fine, but it was just the Zener that caused the trouble. The 4.7 mic cap, we replaced that. It seemed okay, to be honest, but I sort of had one sitting there and I thought, well, you know, in the interest of recapping. Anyway, so the other area was over here. We see the same input voltage. Oh, sorry. Jesus, not focusing very well, is it? It's making it very hard. Right, so we see that supply line, that 13 point, nearly 14 volt supply line there. That same supply line over here, if you look at that 330 ohm, comes down and comes out here at around 5.89 volts. The voltage was really funny there. So I know it sounds like a bit of overkill, but I did replace that Zener last second before we powered up and replaced that resistor. The resistor, I probably just did that for the hell of it, if I was to be really honest. It did look like it was a bit warm, been charred or something, but it was, when I pulled out a circuit, it was fine, but I just thought, what the heck, we'll chuck another one in there. But the major fault, no, was back down here at this area here with this regulator. Then feeds, as you can see, anything in the dotted area is in that power supply area. So see, what happens is, they then come back over to the main board and come back out onto the main board, which translates to all these leads here coming back over to this main board in here. So that's pretty much got us to the stage where now, when you turn on, there is receives, which is good. As you can see, sort of see. Transmit, we've got power, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4. And if I give ourselves a little bit of listening ability over here, 1 2 1 2. Oh, and also put ourselves on AM would be good. That might actually resolve a bit better. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. A lot of feedback there. It's called turn the volume down. But 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yeah, we're just getting a bit too much feedback between the two here at the moment. But for all intents and purposes, apart from an alignment and a just a bit more of a clean up, there's still some polish that we can do on this steel bit here. Obviously, we showed you before the side panels that were here that need to be redone, and then just a bit of casework just to clean it up. But what was, as you saw in video one, a total wreck, is getting to the stage. Now look, you may say to me, was this economical to do? Of course it wasn't. No way in the world. Mucking around with chasing bits and pieces, and it's like, a lot of these radios are not worth possibly spending the time commercially, because I'm just restoring for the fun of it. It's a bit different. What was funny though was that if I walk over here, I was speaking to Ron VK3AHR on the phone, and I just happened to walk by over here, and because I didn't think we had one of these, and I knew we had one of these fellas, which is the 642 model. I need to find, what have we got? We've actually got a 641. I didn't even know we had it. I've got to be honest, sometimes we need to do a bit of an inventory. Now, what we've done is we've put another mic on the 642. This has got a cobweb on it. You have got to be kidding. That is terrible. Okay. Goodness. We need to get in here and dust. And this is why I don't get to this area that much to look at what these radios are. But we've put the volume mic. I figured they actually came out on the Royce 642s as well, so I thought we'll put that on there. We've put another mic on the other 641. This 641 always had the original Royce mic that was the standard mic. There's cobwebs there. Unbelievable. I've got little daddy long legs in here, I reckon. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. So that's where we've got to. And, apart from putting a couple of clean sides on it, the major reason, this is what's going to sound a bit stupid, major reason I went into doing this one, because I didn't think we had one, to be honest, and how stupid do I look? Because, yes, we do. Anyway, it's been a good exercise, but just remember that, if you're working on one of the 641s, 1-641s, when you're in here, just remember that, you do have 9-volt and 6-volt supplies that supply this board. The PLL won't run without having those 6 and 9-volt. The whole transmit stage is powered by the 9-volt area. So really, it's quite a bit of input for the logic and etc. that comes off this board here. So when you're running 12 volts, you come in the back on 12 volts, you're actually coming into this board first, where it takes that 12 volt supply, or nearly 14 volts, and it transforms it. Of course, it still uses 12 volts for the output stage, etc. But the audio stage and quite a few other stages are run by under that sort of voltage. I think from memory they're about 8 or 9 volts. So do remember that. And that's the reason for the multiple fuses and the current limitations on those fuses too. So another thing to be aware of. All right, well, that's about it. I'll, obviously, finish off doing the covers and things like that, but pretty much now that we've realised we've already got one, it's taken all the fun out of it. But going by the video number 1, I'm not sure if this is video 3 or 4. I've lost track. We've sort of done this radio over a few days, so I've lost track for sure just exactly where we're up to. But I remember that last video we talked about the fact that voltages were important, to check voltages. Before you go guessing that a final's gone or an audio stage is gone, go and check all these output voltages from the supply and make sure, especially in this case, because they don't just rely on a straight, 13.5 volt output from the supply to the board. That's it. It's the first time I've looked at one of these, and when I actually looked at the intricacy of, all these different voltages coming out here, it was sort of very, very interesting to see, 9 volt sources, 9.8, 9.18, 8.2, etc., and they all vary, etc. So I'll just actually see if I can put an antenna on it to see if we can hear anything. Okay, so I've just chucked an antenna on now. Bear in mind, all I've done is shoved heaps of millivolts into it, and not really done a lot yet as far as checking its sensitivity, whether it's on frequency or anything. That needs a bit of a clean. I can hear that straight away. Problem with 27 megs here, if it's not running skip-wise, it's not unusual to not hear a lot there. So I'm going to really need to just see. JDW229 testing 1 2. Anybody hear us? I doubt it. The reason for that also is going to be, I bet you it's way off frequency. It's going to need a full calibration, and we'll certainly have a look at that. But I just thought it's certainly sounding a bit like there's a bit of hash out there, etc. But it's also sounding like it's a bit down on receive. Let's have a quick look at that anyway. Okay, so we're actually, let's just hang on. We're putting 0.158 of a microvolt in. Let's take that up to 0.5. And believe it or not, it needs an alignment, because I could tell by the fact I've got the volume up, so someone's been in there mucking around for sure. But it's hearing, so I'm happy with that. Now, it's hearing 0.5 of a microvolt. Let's just see what it does. Once we sort of take that up to, say, 50 microvolts, it's reading a bit low. Whoops. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it's reading a bit low. So we'll be having a bit of a look at just doing an alignment on it and getting that pretty right. far as its output on AM, it's 4 watts of output, which is about right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, yeah. You know what? This is not going to take a lot now, but I guarantee you, it'll need an oscillator. As far as frequency, it's going to need the oscillator set up, etc., just to make sure that's right. I could detect a slight IF issue. I could just hear it, something that you just get used to hearing, and something doesn't sound 100% right there. But it'll be an adjustment. It's not going to be too much of an issue. So I'll tell you what. Once we get this thing, we'll clean all these with that sort of scratchy issue. We hit that with a bit of the old Deoxit D5, and I tell you, that does a fantastic job. But overall, those of you that have followed this series of videos through, this should have been a total just throw it in the bin. And Andre, my good mate, definitely accused me of madness even looking at this, and I said to him, I said, mate, the little bit of work I'm getting on the bench as far as getting on and doing a bit of restoration at the moment, this one certainly meets the challenge of, why not? And he said, yeah, you're mad. Anyway, look, it has not been worth the time. No, of course not. But, I mean, some things are, not really about the actual time. By the way, it's a couple of the indicators, just for those of you that might be repairing one. This is a big indicator. The RXTX light, as you'll see, RXTX, like so. When the supply voltage down here is not working, you'll find your RX and TX lights won't come up at all. You'll also find the audio, no matter what you do, you can't crank any audio out of it. You obviously you'll get the relay switching, because the relay switches at 12 volts, but everything integral to needing that 9 volt and 6 volt voltage won't work. So, but that's the first indicator. If you get one of these and the TXRX lights just don't show up at all, but you can hear the relay clicking, then start thinking, yep, okay, voltage problem, power supply, seen this before, and you'll sort of get your work from there. Check the Zener to start with, and just remember, if the Zener's gone, there's a good chance that it's burnt the resistor and taken it out as well, so have a look at that. All right, 73's to you. Sorry this one went a little bit longer between the videos, I suppose, but I've got to be honest, I wasn't even sure if I was going to release the videos, because we weren't sure whether we'd ever get it going. So, see how I'm not admitting to how many hours we put into mucking around with this thing? And the truth is, a lot of it was cleaning it up more so before we even wanted to put power to it. And do remember that if you get something that's been immersed in water and it looks like it's had a bit of a hard life, spend the time to clean it up first before putting any volts onto it. Okay, 73s from VK3CM, JDW229. All the best from Tangambalanga, North East Victoria, Australia. Cheers all.